All right, and with that, we'll just go ahead and go live to our currently 0 viewers.
Woohoo!
And I do love that song that was about to come on, but we will not.
I
Will not listen to it.
I don't have the video stream open. I just have the chat popped out.
Cool. That's the plan here as well, so we can see some folks and their commentary if anyone shows this evening. But for now, kind of regardless, let me pull up the game, get that going, and share that with you where it needs to be shared. And there we go. Game capture is on. All right, cool. Let's quickly get in here. I do like the music. Let's turn that down a little. Yeah. And we could consider starting a new game.
Alrighty.
Let's see, actually. Let me actually do one thing and make sure that I can keep my YouTube chat on top. I have a hotkey script somewhere. All right, there's
There's
that.
something very bizarre about the menu of this.
Okay.
Which is all of these herd animals and humans just walking next to each other as if it's no big deal.
Oh yeah, it's real Lion King like opening section vibes to it, don't you think?
Yeah, I think in any real situation, both the humans and the herd animals would be terrified of each other.
Yeah, there's just that undomesticated auroch just walking along.
Not a problem.
We can try some different places. I tried playing Continental Dawn. As you can see, I've done some things, which is accessible. The Northlands are a bit more challenging.
Hard,
but we might be able to survive the beginning, and if we don't, so be it. See how that works. Or we can start again in here. I don't have any.
Well, I mean, I think that the difference is going to be like a preference for hunting versus gathering early on, at least.
Probably so. I'll say I was pretty disappointed in the total amount of mammoths that were lacking at the very beginning when I've tried this before. So I want to go. I want to do this Northlands, but we get to choose a settlement here.
Okay.
Somewhere in here, and we can name it. I currently don't think we have any viewers to give us suggestions because I was really bad about advertising this for those of you who are watching in retrospect. That was one of those things that was definitely on my to-do list. And it didn't get done. Funny how that happens.
Wow.
So, for those of you who might be watching this after the fact, apologies that you were not here at the very beginning, because I was a bit of a disorganized mess yesterday. God love Mondays. So,
It's the best of us.
yeah, I had a lot of emailing to do, as some of you who might tune in might know. So we've got the North River, Mountain Confluence, Frozen Valley, Chill Lake. That sounds pretty.
Awesome.
Seems chill. Twin Lakes.
Well, thinking about this, since we don't have any suggestions from viewers, maybe trying to think about where the best places might be archaeologically speaking.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Which in my mind is going to be on one of the rivers, so one of those 3 on the river itself, just because it's flowing water as opposed to still water in the lake.
Interestingly enough, as you might know too, hosts, at least insofar as we're talking about beaches, really terrible place to live. Honestly, there's really nothing there for people. So I'm kind of favoring, there may be an estuary system, not knowing this game that well. I presume actually there's not any kind of bonus there. It would just be kind of fish and beaches. So I kind of like one of these two. And I kind of like North River because it's not just rocky stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the other one is going to get choked out by those mountains really quickly.
So
And not to mention, North River has access to that secondary stream.
yes, potentially. Again, not really clear on scale. So we'll see what the map actually looks like once we're in there. What should the name of our settlement be? This is obviously a huge decision.
Oh no.
Should we found Shambana?
Yeah, let's go with Shambana. That'll be fun.
Shambana. All right.
Now I'm gonna feel bad though if
Because everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
Well, I started. Did I pick nomad or did I pick settled?
I didn't see.
I was flipping back and forth and thinking about it. So we'll see if we start. I think we start with a small little settlement, which will keep us a little bit more alive. And I think that's reasonable. I mean, nomads would have had structures most of the time. It's a matter of how long they would have stayed in one place, right?
Precisely.
Please forgive me for continuing to explain things seemingly at the moment to just you that you already clearly know, and
No, not at
in
all.
the expectation that maybe one day we will have an audience who may not know these things.
Yeah.
The entire point. All right, I always like to pause these games like as soon as we get in.
So we've got two structures, not too far from the river. Actually, that's a really good place.
Yeah, zoom out. So
so-
here's a neat feature of this game. It is called Primal Vision.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so we can see what we've got in terms of resources. Here's our people in the light blue. Green is like collectible food, like chestnuts and blueberries around there. Animals come in a variety of shades. Dangerous ones, like cave lions, are red.
I was wondering about that. That's
and
not
they're
good.
very close to
that's
us,
really not good.
which is great. There are a ton of sticks right here. Like, that's good.
Okay.
We've got random bits of just regular stone. There's some flint, which we will need for sure.
Unfortunately, it's on the wrong side of some cave lions.
Yeah, for now. They move around quite a bit. I think we'll be okay. And then some potential megaliths that we will not be extracting anytime soon. Same with this iron ore. What we got over here? Here is your woolly rhino. That's what you wanted. That's what you wanted.
Yes. Oh, it looks great.
And a baby woolly rhino too.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, let's not waste time and let our people get attacked by cave lions.
So in my mind, it feels like we have 7 people there.
6 people.
6. It
Got
feels like in my mind
2 children and 4 adults. An old man, an adult man, and 2 women.
And we start with what looks like spears.
Yeah, we've got wooden spears and wooden harpoons, so we can maybe actually expand our grouped resources. There we go. So we've got our food up here, skins, implements, clothes. See if I don't think we need anything else yet.
Okay. So in my mind, the best place to start, given that it's going to get cold.
It is. We are starting at the beginning of winter, actually. So that's super
I feel
fun.
like we could probably designate some of the adults for fishing, and
Yes,
then everyone
fishing
else
would be-
on things like chestnuts
Fishing would be good.
are going to
So we've got all
preserve
these.
really easily throughout winter.
Yeah, so fishing and gathering. So let's place some work areas. Well, we definitely want to gather sticks as well. We'll need those for some simple constructions and for firewood and the like. We should also find some flint around here somewhere. There's this up on the hillside. We can put that in our little gather area as well. We'll create an area for fish. If we put it here, we can get all 3 of those segments of river, which is good. And then I'm afraid I'm horrendously about to overwork them. We'll talk about the way this game does workloads, which is interesting. Okay, and then collect and harvest wild plants.
So we have some berries and chestnuts over there.
Yeah, let's collect over here. Oh, this is a good spot too. Maybe we could set up a
that
couple
should
of
be fairly
collections.
safe there too. I mean, that's one. Is that a wild horse? What is that?
Let's check in a second. Let's see. There's a wild donkey.
Okay.
He looks like easy game. Maybe we should start off here by hunting that donkey.
Yeah.
Now here's the question. Do we ensure the hunt by sending everyone and leaving the kids? these cave lions. Feels like we should probably just like let's just send
No,
these.
not at all.
Let's send these 2 people over here to get this donkey.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what?
Can we use the kids, or are they just?
They do some
hanging
things. They do certain tasks. Like they're gonna go and
Okay.
collect sticks, I think.
around? Okay, that's safe
Eventually,
enough.
they seem to work intermittently. Right, so we got a warning. We have no fuel, so we have to
Get the sticks.
get sticks. We have our first hearth here, and 2 tents. And let's see, we've got some basic setups with the workload. We don't have to worry about it too much. Maximum number of people working, production limit. This is all fine for the level of people we have. We basically want to make sure that we do not extract more resources than we can do anything with for now.
Right.
So one of the things that we need to do pretty quick to take advantage of these things is we need a crafting spot, right? So we gotta actually create some tools and implements. Where, in your experience as an archaeologist, where did crafting happen if it were going to happen in a distinct place outside of the house?
Distinct place in the house. Well, it's going to be away from domestic activities and probably closest to, as possible, to the resources that you're going to acquire. So probably somewhere on that edge of the village that you're covering it
For
with.
now, yeah. Let's plop this here. We'll kind of orient it that way.
There's the practical reason of having it closer to the raw materials, which is just easier, but there's
Absolutely.
also the sort of day-to-day cost of, say, stepping on chipped stone.
Right. That's a good point. You don't really want that stuff in your floor, around your fire, ideally, where you're going to be walking around a lot. Quick way to ruin a pair of moccasins, sandals, shoes, whatever you have.
I mean, it is the early counterpart to stepping on a Lego, really.
A bit sharper. I can't speak to the relative pain. I feel like Legos might actually still have a leg up there. So we also, as far as basic technology we need in our burgeoning little settlement here, we need a place for some skin drying racks. Because we can't do anything with the skins unless we dry them, obviously. We don't want to have a sloppy mess of just tissues coming off of an animal. So let's just put down 2 for now. Because we don't want to give people, again, too much work to do. You see that our workload is now high. Yeah.
It's also the beginning of winter, so ideally we would have taken care of some of this workload ahead of this point. But
Yeah, ideally. We'll speed up time a little and let them do some things. I'll go get some stuff. Start building the crafters. This old man is useless. He's not fishing. He's not picking up sticks. Maybe we could increase the number of people. Maybe we can have 2 people potentially pick up sticks.
especially given that it's going to get cold.
Also increase the 2 there.
We've got one person gathering in that area.
Oh, that woolly rhino's coming in. Hopefully that's fine. What has happened to our cave lions? Okay, they're just chilling over there.
Just hanging out.
Which is probably mostly realistic. I think, you know, humans, especially once, you know, they had the technology that we even have at this stage, right? Not really ideal prey in most circumstances for these animals. Our evolutionary ancestors, different story, but we've got, you know, a community of people here. We have sticks. We have flint bifaces. It looks like everybody's got some bifacially flaked stone tools, which is good. You'll see also that we, by doing something, I forget what popped up, we gained some knowledge, right? I think we hunted that donkey, right? Okay, yeah.
Now, I'm curious here how accurately this game might simulate butchering decisions on an animal the size of a donkey.
It is not going to, probably. Let's see if we can use Primal Vision to locate the spot where we killed that donkey.
We've got a moose on the edge there,
There
too.
is. That's actually a Megaloceros,
Oh.
which looks
Big ol'
like a
moose.
super elk. Yeah. Also a little more dangerous. I don't know. Moose would still be pretty dangerous. You know.
Yeah.
They're big. Okay, the donkey made it over here. It has 4. Oh, there's a cave bear by that donkey. Maybe we need to leave that alone. The donkey has some meat, some skins, and some bones. And it is not being butchered because it's over pretty far away from the village. We're doing okay. We have a fair bit of fish, raw fish, and vegetables and meat. Let's see what we can do with our knowledge. Unfortunately, nothing, because we don't have enough knowledge yet, but this is what the tech tree looks like. So, looking immediately like kind of at the labels here. It's very interesting. You have the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and then the Copper, Bronze, and Iron Ages, which is actually the scheme for Europe, right? That is the exact same scheme. We have slightly different terminology, but largely we're dealing with Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic types of societies here in the New World. We just talk about Paleo-Indian, Archaic, Woodland, and Mississippian as big blankets in the eastern U.S. at least. There's certainly different schemes of time periods and cultural markers, and quite frequently there's a lot of confusion as to what those labels actually are. They're not time periods or cultures. There's something in between, which can get a little confusing and causes no end of debate amongst archaeologists. But generally speaking, we've got these distinct phases of time that we can go through. And sorts of technologies we're looking at in the Paleolithic are tools with bones, which is something that I think by the start of this game, if we've got structures like this, you know, we probably actually have quite a bit of technology. But the game is a game and wants us to play catch up.
Sure.
So one of the things I think that we really probably want to rush for, so to speak, we have tools of different sorts here. So this is going to get us our flint tools, but we have to do bone tools first. Obviously, they're going to be just better, I assume. We're going to have slings, which might also be a more efficient hunting implement in some situations. Food drying, I think, which is going to be really good here, especially for the fish. So we can store, I mean, we're making our way through the winter now, but we have to prepare for next winter, provided we survive this one. Dogs are good.
Dogs.
They help protect people, and they will assist in hunting. Tanning, so we can make leather clothes, which are a little warmer, a little tougher. They hold up a little better than the skins. And then funerary rituals, which we can deal with in a while. We don't have anyone dead or dying as of yet.
So we have a crafter and a skin dryer. We are out of flint.
Yep, again, repeatedly, we have almost enough knowledge to do our first thing. We're going to spend some time at a higher game speed. Let them go around their tasks. We can slow it down. We can watch some fishing happening.
Yeah.
Hiroka. I wonder where they pulled a list of names that they thought were going to be like Paleolithic. It's interesting. Yes, game. We have no flint. Let's see. We do probably want to maybe set our folks up to maybe auto-create some things, because this is how we gain knowledge, is by continually reiterating the sorts of practices, right? Practice makes perfect, right? So we have to produce enough things that we will gain some knowledge. And while we have like one wooden harpoon, some knives, and some spears, we don't have enough of each of those things for everybody. That's probably fairly realistic if you have some specialized tools. But on the other hand, there were probably some tools that were not regarded as specialized. Most everybody probably would have had bifaces of some form, right? Just as a general purpose tool for scraping, prying, cutting, all sorts of stuff. Maybe not everyone always has their own personal fishing harpoon, but for our little community of 6 people, it seems like we might want more than one of those.
That is something worth talking about too when you're dealing with a community that's as small as 6 people, that in terms of specialized labor, you're going to see a lot less of it.
And
generally, because that's just enough people for everyone to carry their own weight. And collaboratively, it doesn't matter who's fishing necessarily, so long as someone is.
Speaking of, look at this boy here, carrying sticks. And now he's on his way to get some raw fish. Guess he's hungry. He's gonna carry this out. Hopefully someone goes and gets some flint at some point. I'm a little concerned Actually, you know what? I realize I may have made a mistake. I do not think this work area. I think that's a location where we can mine flint. I think we have to look for some flint that is just
available
on the ground. So, oh, there's a mammoth.
There's a mammoth. Well, generally speaking,
Very cool.
in terms of real-world practicalities, the best place to probably look for things like flint is most likely going to be near that water source early on.
Yeah, probably so. Here is some, for example. It's not that far.
There was some, I think, on the banks of the river.
Oh, were there?
I thought so. Maybe not. Maybe that was
that is just general stone. It's a little unclear. Oh, we have flint basically right next door. That might prove to be a more useful positioning later, but I think I have to put down another gathering area to deal with all that. That's production limits. I can't choose when and how people delegate their labor, but I can give them caps on how much work to do in certain tasks, certain kinds of production. All right, yes, we have no flint. Let us rectify that situation. Come and collect flint. And in fact, early, we talk about flint quarries a lot amongst Neolithic populations, and these weren't really quarries in kind of the way we think about quarries today. These big holes, gaping holes in the ground. Largely, to your point of these outcrops of flint or chert, which is a kind of broader category of the same kind of stone that was good for making tools, was available just on the surface in a lot of places. It would be eroding out of outcrops of certain kinds of limestone formations, or you could find it as relatively well-worn cobbles just in stream beds and the like, due to earlier erosion over the previous tens of thousands of years or more. And high-quality lithic sources were obviously one of the main things that people in certain places used to decide when and where they were going to, move across the landscape throughout the year. Let's see. Feels like we should do maybe some hunting. They're just standing around, not doing anything.
Yeah, I was trying to see some animals that might be good candidates for that, marked off by something like a rhino or a cave bear, some really dangerous animal that's high risk. Seems like our cave lions have moved on.
Yes, which is great, and we only have 2 people here to go hunting. So
what about, there were some medium risk animals?
Yes,
down the stream?
there were. I think we could probably pass by. We could just try to get one of these, a young female auroch, and hopefully the whole herd doesn't turn and attack us. This could be a very short-lived village if that is the case. But let's try that. Beat up again. Oh, they're coming towards us, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Where here comes our guys. Oh, we are being attacked by the auroch. Can we survive the angry giant cat? Oh.
Yeah, it's not good for the person in the front of the cow for sure.
No, he's not doing great, but we did better than the cow, so that is a great sign. We've got some meat coming in, and we gained enough knowledge that we can invest in food drying. So we can dry this meat, because this is actually going to be quite a bit of meat relative to, the number of people we currently have. So if you were going to put a drying rack somewhere in a village, where do you think it would be a good place?
Somewhere, likely close, but not too close to the actual residence, so you can monitor it, but it's also not necessarily attracting animals to your home all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably, getting it towards the river makes some sense because it means fish has to go further, but
yep,
you run some risk of flooding that way, but it's also built high, so it may not matter.
Right, and you're probably, if you're doing basically air drying here, you're gonna want good amount of airflow, and you're probably going to get air coming up off the river, up the bank. So I'm kind of feeling somewhere behind the houses, between the houses and the river.
Yeah.
And for now, we'll just plop down 2 racks and see if that does everything we need it to do for now. Wow, we've obtained all the flint. Actually, this reminds me, I don't think, we did not start with, like, storage areas.
No.
So, a rock pile and a wood pile just kind of over here by our crafting stuff is probably not a bad idea.
No.
Go ahead, what?
That's really a decision that's not so different from decisions made today. If anyone watching this in the future is familiar with sort of wood heating, you stack the wood you use for that as fuel on the side of your house somewhere out of the way. It's not so dissimilar in this case.
Mm-hmm. Oof, our workload is very high right now.
Yeah.
Something that I find interesting is the mechanic in this game is if you have a balanced workload, your members of your community are pretty good at prioritizing tasks. But the higher the workload is, the harder they have to try to do everything, and some priority stuff slips. I've had some very hungry and very thirsty people going about the most menial of tasks. It's a really weird kind of thing, because of course no one is going to work themselves to dehydration and die, really, in reality, especially if they're, say, building a drying rack right next to a river.
Yeah.
But in terms of it representing how you have, like, the more work there is, the harder it is to organize, like, what tasks everyone should be doing, it's actually not that bad of a scheme, right? You could think about stuff getting left in the lurch, so to speak, if, you know, everyone's doing a million things and no one remembered to cook dinner, right? It's something that I think we could think about today, you know, living in a household with other people, you're doing a bunch of tasks or something, and, you know, sometimes something slips through the cracks. And I think it's interesting to think about that on a small societal scale with this workload mechanic. The other thing is we don't have any more room for people. I'm not quite sure if we want to expand and potentially bring in more people yet. So let's wait till that workload gets down and maybe... Okay, got our first food dryer.
That's I wanted to ask about how that worked in this game in terms of having population growth.
Yeah, so you have births and deaths in your village, but they're a relatively slow way of gaining population.
Right.
Just like real life, right? You have to wait a certain number of years to grow that way. And so typically when we're talking about population change in the past, you know, we're working at rates below like 0.05% per year as a standard rate of growth for pre-Neolithic, pre-agricultural societies. We got knowledge for surviving the winter, and we got some for meat, for getting some meat. So we can choose another option. What do you think would make sense? What do you want to see us invest in?
My thought would be, since we're stuck in a way where we're trying to maximize our ability to forage and gather, my thought would be either slings or bone tools. My preference would be towards bone tools first, because that's going to help with fishing as well as hunting.
Yeah.
Whereas slings are going to be more singular.
So for now, let's turn off wood production and just focus on making bone tools and bifaces as necessary. So we have resource limits on all these things, and this is relative percentages. So we basically want spears and knives, enough for every adult to have them, and then half as many of the specialized tools, like fishing tools and things like that, and enough clothes for everyone as well. And so someone will be tasked with making that as needed. Look at all this fish we're drying.
Clothing is certainly an interesting one, as a decision that was often made in warmer areas that entire members of the population could go with very minimal clothing, as opposed to warmer areas where you have to be more concerned.
Yeah. We have made it through spring, though, which is nice, and our workload is back down. It feels like now might be a good time to build another residence and see if we can attract any visitors.
Okay.
Mostly these early villages were built kind of as, you know, it's an egalitarian society. So basically everyone's on more or less even footing, and so that's reflected in the the way the village is laid out. So generally, you find circular villages, barring any other kind of constraints on space, just because that's relatively equitable and gives people an equal view of activity, right? It's both that no one has a privileged position, but also everyone can keep an eye on everybody else and make sure no one's like cheating the system. We call these people maybe aggrandizers, people who might want to take advantage of access to greater variety or number of resources than they would have otherwise had they appropriately shared. And so social sanctions would be put on these people sometimes. But the only way that you could sanction people would be if you could observe their own behavior. So there's kind of a double-faced kind of element to this circular orientation of the village. I'm just gonna, there's a pear tree right there. Someone's gotta go collect those pears. We just selected that immediately. So another thing is we can dry the meat that we have, but we cannot preserve the wild foods we collect particularly well. A lot of that, like our vegetables, the berries and fruit we have collected, because it's spring and summer here, that's all gonna go bad actually before too long.
Quickly.
All right, we've got a couple people just waiting here. Maybe this is a good time to go on another hunt, because you can see our drying racks are also empty. So we do have 2 women here, and that's going to be a cultural distinction as to whether women or men are hunting. It is definitely a cultural generality that men were hunters and women stayed closer to residences because of their dual obligations of domestic stuff, but largely that was driven by their role as primary parental figures, especially for very young children if they happen to have any at the time. The game does not have babies or infants. It just has like children.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But as far as the game is concerned, and in terms of real life, there's no reason that 2 women outfitted just as well as men would not have the same ability to go after hunt. And so here is a wild adult male boar who is just hanging out.
I find it interesting that a boar is listed as a safe hunt.
Yeah, that is not something I actually agree with either. I'm not really sure how they decided on this, how the developers did, but it is certainly...
I mean, I suppose it's a comparison.
Oh, there's cave hyenas. Do we actually want to go... Let's actually try, instead of going after the easy boar, let's try to go after this not quite as easy Megaloceros. I don't know the names of all these megafauna. And let's see, we also have a trader who has arrived to our village.
Oh, that's interesting.
Let's see if they have anything we want. They have flint, leather, which we don't have, tannin, which we don't need yet until we start making leather, some dry fish, and some logs. You know, there's nothing there that I think we need or want right now.
No.
And so that's another thing that's not particularly accurate. This isn't how trading probably would have worked. Do you want to go on a little bit of a mini lecture on how it's likely trade and exchange worked in a society kind of at this level, at this scale?
Is something that's facilitated through pre-existing social relationships.
Yeah, a stranger doesn't just show up at your village.
No, nobody shows up to your village with some resources and asks if anybody wants to trade with them. It's rather that they're going to be related to someone else in the village, and then any interaction they have in terms of exchange of materials is going to be mitigated with that. And it's often the exchange of things like practical resources, stone, food, what have you, are secondary to the actual goal, which is to maintain those social relationships.
Yeah, because it's not like most communities would not have been able to come by the necessities of life themselves.
No. But it's also, in case of times of scarcity, it's not the worst idea to maintain relationships with other villages. How those kinship systems actually work is highly variable depending on what culture we're talking about, where and when. But sometimes it is a direct relationship, a cousin, a brother, so on and so forth. And sometimes it's a fictive relationship, someone who is associated with a particular belief, a particular clan, which is a larger sort of ordering of familial ties, or a common ancestor of some sort, some cultural figure that you share.
Yeah, these fictive apical ancestors. I'm really excited. We haven't gotten to kinship yet. In Introduction to Anthropology this semester, and it was certainly not one of my favorite topics when I was taking Intro to Anthropology myself.
Oh, me either.
But the deeper in I get to anthropology, the more interesting I find kinship, because it does serve to structure basically everything else on top of it in terms of how we relate to one another as humans, as members of society. Everyone's just hanging out. Not a lot of hunting. We need to make some use of our time, because we've got some dry fish. Have we exhausted? We've kind of exhausted some of our fishing.
Yeah, I need to back off the fishing a bit.
We need to hunt. That was a failed hunt earlier while you were talking, which was a bummer. The Megaloceros was too quick.
The downside of this placement is that the amount of readily hunted game is scarce.
Yeah.
You're having to make higher risk decisions before really prepared to manage the potential costs.
Yeah, like I'm not feeling particularly confident about going after a mammoth.
Definitely should not hunt a mammoth
with just like three people.
That is a 20 to 30 person job.
Also, our adult males have turned into old men. Maybe we should definitely. We've got another hut here, so more people will move in. So that's good, at least. But yeah, I think we have to go after something a little riskier.
Might be time to take the whole village after something. What do we have that are in those yellow ranges?
Yeah, let's look. Oh, here's another boar. Let's do that.
Yeah, go after the boar. What are those animals near that boar?
Aurochs, and there's a bear.
So these are distant wild relatives to the modern domestic cow.
Yes, like
boar.
Giant cows.
Yeah.
Oh, we just got 3 new members of the village. That's a lot of
go.
people. Okay, so now we have 9 people. Let's see if we can. We're at 80% workload, so I don't know if we're actually. I think we have an appropriate amount of things for people to be doing. I might want to add some kind of spiritual thing here to keep everyone happy. A skull pole. You want to talk about how the skull pole is this game's foundational spiritual thing? Also, where should we put it?
I would say using some rough comparison, and I want to stress rough because I do want to go into what this is sort of a problematic understanding a lot of people have towards the pre-written past. But I would say that these sort of things normally go towards the center of a village.
Yeah. Sure, let's put it over here. Right by the hearth. And for the functional aspect of the game, as far as it's concerned, people, once they get a little stressed out, a little worn out, low morale, because they've been working really hard, they will come here and do some spiritual activity.
I think the fact that it's a skull pole sort of leans in heavily on a still lingering sort of association. It's not a stereotype. It's an association with the ancient past with a particular kind of violence or a particular sort of creepy mystique. And I think that's the reason we're seeing skulls. Though that isn't necessarily true that it would be anything violent at all.
Right, these may be the skulls of our own ancestors, because certainly that was something that was done, keeping, deceased relatives, previous community members close to home. Right?
As honored members of a community in death, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that they're no longer members of the community, they're just the roles that they play as members of the community would change after death. That's something we will also be talking about a bit more in Unit 3 if I've got any class members here this evening. And if anyone out there is watching, you have any questions or comments, both Blake Coker, why don't you introduce yourself, by the way? I think people know who I am probably here, but I and Blake are both happy to field questions and commentary from the chat.
So, my name's Blake. I am I've been here for a long time, a fifth-year PhD student here. My research is on the late Mississippian, so around AD 1350 to around 1540 or so.
AD, right?
Yes, AD, or CE, whichever you prefer. It would be 560 years roughly before present. But in the southeast, particularly in Georgia. And
I'm gonna say it's time to domesticate dogs.
Okay. Would help with the hunting. But my research in particular is on the sort of decisions and people, human or otherwise, involved in the creation of a village in response to a changing ecological and social landscape in that time period. It is a period of rather dramatic change. A lot of sort of the cornerstones of the social landscape are changing rather rapidly, and people are moving a lot, and founding villages in new and interesting ways that are predicated both in a sort of cosmological understanding of the world and in a historical one. And I'm sort of interested in exploring those processes to work back towards understanding what some of the phenomena we observed in archaeology in the late Mississippian are. That's sort of a long way around saying what it is I do. But
I remember once upon a time when I used to do archaeological research. I miss it.
It's a lot of fun.
I joke. It's not that I haven't stopped doing research per se, but the most.
No, we have
in the house.
Wolves
in the house. Get in there. Don't let the dog kill the child.
So this is one of the problems associated with leaving kids behind. While adults are not necessarily prey that any carnivore would want to go after, kids certainly are.
Yeah, on the other hand, kids are tasty treats.
It also probably doesn't help that we have a lot of excess stored food in these tents, which are attracting animals like this.
Could be. We're just gonna domesticate these young wolves. Yeah. Except for this one woman that's just gonna kill that one for some reason. Cool. They're being tamed because this is 100% how this happened. Yeah, we didn't talk. I talked extensively about domestication this past week in class, but I didn't really go into a ton of detail. I provided an option to talk about dog domestication. But unlike other sorts of domestication where humans seem to have kind of slipped into it with some degree of intentionality, it's unclear if dogs were domesticated intentionally or if dogs, kind of like cats as well, domesticated themselves to some degree. There were some advantages to becoming members of the human pack, so to speak.
Yeah, protection, more so than you would get out of a normal sort of wolf pack. Food, humans collect a lot of food, and they're usually willing to share it. Did those wolves just transform into dogs?
They did, because that's also how that works.
That's interesting.
Right.
So the actual shift from wolf to dog is a gradual thing that happens over time, and then gets sort of trying to think of the right word, but expanded upon when we start seeing different breeds of dogs, which are being bred for particular purposes or aesthetic value.
Yeah.
Um,
So I went in and just built a storage tent. I think it seems unrealistic to me that there would be special purpose storage structures at a stage of technological
Unlikely.
development like this. But I understand,
Yes.
you know, this is a city building game and there needs to be
Yeah.
some conceit so you have something to do and build. Typically, you don't see special purpose storage structures until you're in agricultural societies, or at least.
As a matter of fact, I would wager that most of the storage here would be happening in pits dug into the floor of these tents.
Yeah, more likely than not. That probably would be the case.
Which does a number of things. I mean, one, it makes it harder for animals to get in and access, but it also sort of helps to regulate temperature to an extent that these sort of stored goods are being exposed to.
Yeah, sure.
It makes it easier to store them over time.
I'm going to add our wooden tools back into the production chain so we just get some tool making practice for some people who may not be busy doing anything else. Our workload is relatively low right now.
So at what stage in this game would we start thinking about clearing some of those woods away? Because in my mind, that would happen early on, but I'm not sure if the game agrees with me.
It does not. And that is an interesting thing because we're using collected sticks for firewood right now. We don't need logs until we have some more sophisticated things to build. In my experience, I've gone up through the Neolithic Age. We'll be jumping ahead in time after a minute or two more here. But we, for now, want there to be trees because they produce sticks.
Biofuel.
I was mostly thinking that you take some of the trees closest to your village away
Mm-hmm.
to facilitate a degree of...
In fact, we cannot cut down trees yet because we do not have composite tools, which we can get right now. That sounds like a totally reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, clearing some of these trees would help your ability to observe what's happening in and around your village in a more immediate sense.
Yes, we will definitely need some of this space later. So why don't we just plop a gather area here and kind of push back the bounds. We can
And
remove
that's
that
certainly
later.
something we'd be engaging with once we start experimenting with agriculture. Though there is something to be said about leaving trees in place and doing some agriculture around them too.
Yes, there are some benefits there. I started briefly in a video I recorded today that will go live for the class next week, a tiny bit about Swidden agriculture, especially as it related to environmental changes related to the Maya quote-unquote collapse. So hopefully that'll be interesting for you guys next week. I think we need to hunt again, just because we got some people milling around. They're not too tired or anything, and winter has started, so we're probably gonna lose stuff. So let's see if we can't. There's some young Megaloceros.
So those will probably be fairly safe. It's unlikely that the male or the adult females are going to be overly invested in protecting their young.
Probably not. Probably not.
Deer reproduce fairly regularly, and it's often a better survival strategy on their part to use their speed to just get away from a foe rather than trying to engage with it.
Yep.
Now we'll see if I'm right here, but yeah, they're just going to try and run.
Yep, we got him. That happened really fast. Good job.
Can you name any of the characters Big Steve?
I cannot rename characters. I assume that means that you watched the first stream. We had a request from one of the students to name one of our hominids Big Steve. So we ran with that for a bit.
Well, sure, that sounds fun. I don't think we can name any of these people, though.
No, we cannot. Interesting names all around, though. Like, why can't we name the dogs even? Just dog.
Yeah.
And the dogs, for now, are pretty useless. They will eventually, once we get the
Also
next stage,
apparently
they'll hunt with us.
Amphibious dogs.
Just likes the water. You know?
Yes, no, dogs are useful to have.
Let's see, we don't have tanning yet. Cutting down some trees here and there.
Clearing up some space, giving us more room.
We're doing okay on our food availability. We're halfway through winter, and we're only really gaining food. I'm not too concerned, at least as long as we don't expand further, but maybe it is time to think about inviting more people into our village.
So we're gonna have to start thinking about the optics of space before terribly long.
Yeah, once we
Having
have a
that
complete...
initial circle space.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of these things in practicality would be mitigated at the familial level.
Mm-hmm.
All of these houses, their nuclear families likely exist, but actual in terms of decision making is going to vary a lot depending on whether or not they're relying primarily on an extended family or a nuclear family. So the actual negotiations of space in terms of what houses are where and where they're facing falls along familial ties more often than not.
And not to mention that some of these structures, while they will persist for as long as we have a village here, as far as the game is concerned, they would not persist in reality. It would have to be rebuilt periodically. And that would provide an opportunity to reconfigure the spatial plan of a community or village. Especially considering that this is a weird circumstance for a Neolithic village of this scale and size to be sedentary, right?
Yeah.
In the first place. That's kind of not realistic quite yet. It's possible, and certainly there were non-agricultural sedentary societies. In fact, the earliest agricultural societies came about, as we discussed, because they were already sedentary and could not or chose not to become mobile again in response to environmental change. So in terms of the outline of space, I think, like some villages, especially rapidly growing villages, they ended up pretty messy. They were not perfectly planned, and I think ours is going to come together somewhat organically in that way as well. And it looks like we've got a bunch of people, Virend, unnamed woman, unnamed man, just hanging out. So let's go on another hunting excursion.
It's and there's to know that people are coming to us from some unknown other place without names.
Well, I don't know if they were nameless. It's just that when I was selecting multiple of them, it doesn't show me. Aya, Jarghak, Zamnak. Feels like they just populated this with a bunch of syllables and smushed them together is what they did. I think
someone read Conan the Barbarian.
Virend,
this isn't accurate.
Yeah, that seems just as likely. Alright, go hunting, team. I believe in you. Gonna get the baby deer. Nope. Alright. Good job.
Deer are always a popular animal to hunt.
Yeah.
Usually well worth the effort you put into them, and are naturally quite skittish, so they're rather low risk.
Mm-hmm.
And adults, minus small infants and their mothers, tend to be loners, so you don't have to deal with a pack all that often. Or a pack, not a pack. A deer pact would be an odd thing indeed.
So we have just enough time, or just enough knowledge now to make another improvement.
I think it might be worth now, especially since some of our members getting older, to invest in funerary rites.
Yes, required for burial mound and eventual spirituality. So let's see what we've got now in terms of building a burial mound. This is like a stone cairn kind of thing. Sure. This is very unlike North American burial mound traditions. But if we were going to prepare a burial mound, so typically also we should point out that burial mounds were usually not pre-planned, right? They were built or constructed as needed as members of the community passed on. But typically, because of the long-term history of occupation, a lot of places, there were burial mounds that would already have existed by the time people died. And then additional stages or layers would have been added to them as more people were interred. But with all this in mind, because this game obviously plays a little different, where might a burial mound be located relative to the village?
So, usually, so this village is going to exist in a landscape for a while. And in doing so, it occurs a certain understanding of place with the people living in it. So those sort of cultural understandings of place are going to inform sort of ideas of places of power where you're likely to see the interment of the dead. Most likely going to be somewhere high.
Yeah, it would typically take advantage of natural aspects of the local topography to make a monument like that stand out, right? It would both, it would be built into the environment in such a way, right, that it is a part of natural features, but also would make those same features more evident.
Yeah.
Right?
So I'm actually looking in particular at either that hill
Yeah, this is
or
a
the
pretty
one
good one.
behind the village, just behind it there.
Over here.
Not quite that high. I was thinking
That
about
one?
closer. That one, yeah.
I kind of like this one over here.
Sounds good.
It doesn't seem like, you know, in terms of other planning from like a, you know, maybe metagamey point of view, since I'm the one placing the buildings and stuff, I don't think we're going to be able to build much over there. Right here?
Yeah.
Let's make sure we rotate that. Maybe towards the village. There we go.
These are sort of a sort of dialogue gets created between people and the landscape that they're living in that generates a certain amount of understanding between people and landforms that creates a sort of cultural and religious power.
You feeling brave?
You're going to try and hunt a rhino?
Gonna try to hunt this old female woolly rhino.
Fair enough.
Let's go.
It's medium risk, but with a potential chance of high reward.
Let's get 5 adults. I think that's what we've got. That's an old man. I don't know why I can't select him. I guess it's because he's busy. 5 adults seems like enough. Spirituality's all well and good. I kind of wish we had taken that next level of dog domestication so we would have had some help here, but we'll see what we can put together. The crack team here of old woman, old woman, old woman, old man, adult woman.
Okay.
Who do you think's in charge? Aya. Or maybe Gora Dad here. She's in front. They all have bone spears, which is good. Oh, that's a flint spear, actually, so that's good as well. We seem well enough equipped. I don't know, Jargak and Hiroko over here, a little less so. But these women, they are set. They're... Oh, yeah. They're good. Oh, they're running across. Oh, got to swim. That seems like a non-ideal position to... Yes.
Especially since there's that bear
the
over there.
bear over there. Hopefully the bear minds his own bear business over there.
Hey, he's just trying to get the bare necessities.
Undoubtedly. That's what he's doing. Alright, I don't want to speed up. Alright, the woolly rhino's gonna attack. How are we gonna do? We're doing okay. That wasn't that bad. The rhino kind of forgot how to run down a slight incline, which really helped us. That bear's just checking stuff out over there.
Yeah. Trying to decide if it's worth dealing with all those people to try and get a piece of that rhino. I think the bear has probably decided that it's not worth it.
Probably not. Let's speed time back up.
Hyena, though. I'm not sure.
Okay, he's not interested. He doesn't need anything from Virend. Maybe Virend was the one who was in charge.
Is that a mammoth at the end of the river down there? It's a large animal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the people watching the stream with a slight delay have a much higher quality image than you do. But I did not spring for Discord Nitro. Sorry, bud.
That's alright.
You get your 30 FPS 720p and you're gonna like it. Or you're not. I can't demand that you like it, I suppose.
Workload's alright, still.
Yeah, this is balanced, and we're maintaining a certain degree of surplus food, and we have enough knowledge here to do another step in the right direction.
I think dogs might be the next best.
Yeah, or tanning.
Tanning.
I like dogs. Dogs will make hunting safer for our people. And we've been pretty lucky so far. I feel like we're being cautious enough in selecting our targets by sending enough people. And we just gained a couple more people. Wow, and Jargax just died. He died doing what he loved, hunting woolly rhinos. Or slightly after, you know, it was a good way to go out. Oh, he just literally died. Oh, he did die doing what he loved, crafting. And Zamnak, nonplussed
Just not
by
gonna,
that. He's
not gonna address that, huh?
not. Is our burial mound complete? No, we need stone. Do I have obtain stone? That was a problem, I suppose.
Also happens outside the uses of things like burial mounds too, and for much the similar reasons. Occasionally, people would inter their dead in sort of the floors of houses,
Yeah.
or in village centers. For much the same reason, you're embedding a place with a certain amount of ancestral power or sort of ancestral memory by including the dead as living members of a village moving forward.
Good job,
And
dogs.
Highly rare that you would ever seen a lone hyena attacking a human village.
Yeah, for sure. That would not. That is a typical occurrence. Why don't we take you three and maybe go on yet another hunt? Because there's like not a ton to do, and we gain more knowledge by hunting as well.
High risk animals around.
Actually, the mammoth is only a medium risk right now.
An old man.
Yeah, let's see. Let's just everyone take a timeout. We'll come back and finish this mound for Jaghack, whatever his name is.
Big Steve.
Big Steve. Big Steve's dead. We've handled that request. Let's just send everyone here, and they've got the dogs with them now too.
Some people did hunt mammoths.
Yeah.
A practice that happened. It's unclear how common of a practice that was.
Mm-hmm.
But it did happen.
And it wasn't. Oh, there's a lot of berries and pears and stuff. I should put down another plant gathering area here. Get both of those. No. Oh yes. There we go. There's a bunch over here. That's not as much. Okay. Oh no, we're getting a cave lion attack right when the whole hunting party just left the village.
That is a very opportunistic cave lion.
Come back here, everyone. Can you... Okay, they're turning around. They're running. Come on.
Alright.
Alright, well, I've got this hyena meat and this cave lion meat, which isn't actually a ton of food. A lot of skins, which will be good.
It's also interesting to see a lone male cave lion. Though I suppose I don't know that much about cave lion social practices.
Yeah, definitely a fair point. I am not sure either, but it does seem that they were group animals, right? And I guess it's something, you know, we always aren't quite sure. We have all these modern analogies to now extinct animals, but it's a similar issue that we face as archaeologists, is how applicable are analogies to the past.
I mean, I haven't talked about the fact that every mammoth we've seen has been alone, which is in itself odd.
Yes, they were also herd animals, like this adult female woolly rhino that's just chilling in the village. All right, change of plan. We're just gonna this seems a little threatening. We're just gonna get together. Instead of hunting that mammoth, we're gonna hunt this rhino as our big hunt for the year. Do a lot of dried meat. I do not like that we all started without, you know, everyone here. That was not great planning on everyone's part, but it worked out. Man, these old women are just tearing up like the local fauna.
We also have fairly early evidence that people were engaging in sort of kill strategies for massive animals like this,
right?
Stampeding herds over
right.
cliffs, things like that.
Yeah, there's extensive hunting infrastructure in some places where both natural features, much like the burial mounds, right, where they would take natural elements of the landscape and kind of emphasize them through additional construction. People would take those runs of gullies or ravines or small valleys and build them up, or work together as a team to funnel creatures that they were hunting to a particular spot of the landscape where they could take advantage, like you said, like kill spots. Like, I know that cliffs were popular, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't there one site out west somewhere that was a mammoth kill, or maybe it was, no, I think it was a bison run in particular, where they literally killed so many bison in this matter that basically the bison on the bottom were never recovered or touched by people. There was like piles of bison in this like gully that filled up. The bison following on the ones that were already in there were killing them. And the humans who were involved, there just weren't enough of them to handle 30, 40, 50 dead bison to get all the way to extract all those resources. Pretty insane archaeological find. And I forget exactly its name. I'm not a Western U.S. archaeologist.
I mean, just a few minutes ago, finished talking about how I'm an Eastern U.S. archaeologist.
Yeah.
So,
We're no help here. Oh, Virend is sick. What a bummer. Hopefully that doesn't spread. Social distance.
he's already moved between 2 tents, so
Yeah, great. Look at all this meat we got though. That's pretty grand. Maybe we even need another drying. Right. Oh, burial mound's done. Is someone gonna go get what's his name?
the body's gone. Big
Nope.
Steve.
Big Steve died and went away before we got to the burial mound. An ignoble end for Big Steve. Zach Hark. Whatever. Next person that dies though, gonna get well taken care of. Look at this wonderful burial mound. So we're in autumn. We have 11 people. We can take 12. Oh, 5. Good. Let's get a little tanning before we get slings. What do you say about that?
Yeah.
So now, oop, no storage slots left. That mean, yep, we need yet another storage hut.
Storage hut.
Well, yeah. The way the item stacking works is kind of annoying from just a gameplay perspective. They have these 2 large structures like this take up this much resources relative to these 4 villages. These 4 houses for the villagers themselves is kind of crazy.
It is
Doesn't track.
absolutely crazy.
Maybe we need another drying rack. How much raw meat do we have still stored? 12? Or does this count as that raw meat? Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to build another
Yeah, I was gonna
food
ask in terms
dryer.
of storing meat strategy if salt was in the game, but it looks like salt's just assumed.
Yeah, I mean, air drying definitely did happen. Less so with red meat than with fish, but it was an acceptable strategy. It's not as efficient, or you don't get it stored for as long as if you use salt or some kind of thing that can extract the moisture. But, you know, aged steak, still a thing today, right? You know?
Yep.
And you do what you can to preserve what you can. It's not like a 100% efficient process, kind of regardless, so. Let's see if they now go and actually fill up this rack, or if that was a waste of sticks. Acquired sticks 100 knowledge. We have gained so much knowledge by picking up sticks.
6. Yeah.
Why do I have the stone amount set to 10? Why are we still getting rocks? It's a waste of your time, folks.
All of this would generate a pretty strong geological segment.
This
And then
village,
patterns from those tents.
yeah, from an archaeological site perspective, this would be pretty evident. We may not see all of this on the surface because people haven't lived here for very long yet, right? So we're not probably going to have a lot of surface. Okay, oh, it's a blizzard. Great.
That's not good.
It is not good. I think everyone's gonna get cold. This burial mound, though, this pile of rocks, even if all this other stuff came down, that would be a very clear archaeological signature. That would probably make us look, if we were to find it, at this area here, and we might find these material leavings. Yeah, these also, because they're kind of like hide or skin tents. You can see they actually have these rocks here around the base. And we find those actually out west.
Yeah.
Something that I do know is TP rings. And they're not necessarily TPs in the classic sense, but, you know, portable skin tents were common for a really long time, and they actually would hold up in situations like this blizzard remarkably well, because they had these stone rings that would weigh them down. Sometimes they were reused, sometimes not, and they were repurposed, but they leave very clear signatures out on the plains, especially in the northern plains in the Dakotas and Alberta and places like that today. You can just see them all over the place.
I mean, to be fair, preservation in a place like this is not going to be very good across the board.
Probably not. We might get lucky with a flood from an archaeological perspective. I don't think the game has flooding. At least I haven't experienced it yet, if it does. But a big flood through this valley potentially could put down a layer of sediment.
Over the site, yeah.
Which would be really good for the preservation context. Everyone's just chilling. Feels like it's time to go on a hunt.
Would be interesting to see what happens to this village the further we move away from the last ice age as well.
Yeah, it does seem that the climate changes a little as you move through. Let's go get this mammoth.
Go get the mammoth.
It's time.
I think, I mean, at this point, we're sitting pretty comfortably in the later days of the last ice age.
Yeah, the end of the Pleistocene seems about right.
I don't know if some of these animals go extinct in this game or not, but many of them did.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of this sort of period, things like the mammoth, the woolly rhino.
This is definitely a European style thing, so we don't have giant ground swaths, which is a real bummer. One of my favorite.
Or a giant armadillo.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
Giant beavers. Oh, that's interesting that the mammoth is running away.
Running away, yep. First mammoth. Congratulations, team. This Shambana, Team Shambana. That is the name of our settlement. I've just remembered.
We named it Shambana. So we have. Well, I'm officially deciding that the 3 houses on the left on the fire is Champagne, and the 1 house on the right is currently Urbana.
So I have to build something over here for the faculty ghetto. Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I just noticed this trader occasionally, not in addition to like the items they have, they also come bearing technology.
Wow.
So Jarek here, this trader, is offering to teach us sling making.
Well, should definitely try and pick that up.
So we should see what we have to trade here.
Looks
Our
like
flint axes are the most, our flint tools and our skins here are the most valuable. It's the middle of winter. I don't want to trade in any skins. Maybe some dry skins we could get rid of, though. I don't know if we need all of those. Maybe a few.
We're about to get a lot of raw skin from that mammoth.
That is a good point. Wooden harpoons, meh. We got bone harpoons now. And if we make more, that's an opportunity for more knowledge, so I'm cool with that. Get rid of a flint pick. We don't have a lot of use for that. Flint axes are actually more useful for as weapons against interlopers.
Yeah.
So we can get rid of a couple of those for now, and then maybe just tack on a couple of bifaces. Maybe some more skins. Yeah. We'll finish this off with some skins. And this will up our workload substantially, but we have gained sling making, which means we have everything for Paleolithic. We don't actually need, I think, to have everything in Paleolithic. We just need to have the things that are that lead to these major technologies. So the metallurgy ones are in a line, domestication is in a line, for cereal domestication is in a line from grain processing and other food production stuff. But pottery has no antecedent technologies in the Paleolithic, but it does require quite a bit of knowledge relative to what we have. How's this mammoth butchery going? Cave hyena. Who's attack? Oh. That was a dumb call for that cave hyena. Just over here, like where everyone is walking together carrying stuff. Not the brightest predators so far. But there's something to be said that the animals that were most likely probably to attack humans, especially in groups or at settlements, were probably the most desperate individuals in the species, right? That for one reason or another were not able to make a living themselves kind of getting easier prey. Maybe they're being outcompeted by members of their own species, or maybe there were elements of environment that were, not conducive to them getting enough to eat. So driven to desperation may actually be an accurate kind of narrative about these kind of weird attacks.
Well, humans are dangerous animals to go after. They're large, they're loud, and they often travel in groups.
And they're spiky a lot of the
Very
time.
spiky.
So, this is a small Paleolithic village. Why don't we take this opportunity to jump ahead in time?
Sure.
But before we do that, because, I don't want to stick around to get all the technology points that we need to get to the Mesolithic.
Sure.
Well, let's take a second and talk about the origins and development of pottery, since that is our next major task. I'll go ahead and kind of spoil it. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this in the first place is because it's really underwhelming in this game when you develop pottery. A real pain in the butt to me as someone who deals with a lot of ceramics.
Yeah.
And for you as well, right? It's one of the primary material classes of artifacts that we deal with.
So, pottery, as you might expect, is
Revolutionary, really, in many respects, though it does have, in North America at least, I won't speak more broadly, though I would assume that there's probably a comparative case to be made, some antecedents in terms of things like hot stone cooking.
Right, where either...
Hot stone girdling.
Mm-hmm. So we would have had containers before pottery, right? But probably basketry that you can weave pretty tightly, right? They can be watertight, at least for a time, right? So in those situations, could you describe hot rock cooking and how that would have worked with baskets or maybe even carved stone bowls? Because we know that those slightly precede pottery
That's
as
what
well.
I was thinking of, is the sort of carved. They're made out of a stone called steatite, more commonly called soapstone. It is a very soft stone that is actually really easy to sculpt into something like a bowl. It's easy to carve by hand. But one of the key traits of it is that it's actually really sensitive to heat. It heats very easily and it holds heat for a fair amount of time. As an antecedent to pottery, these sort of stones might be carved into bowls and placed directly above a fire to heat food, or carved into stones and then boiled in water and used to cook, or heated and then placed in water to sort of provide boiled foods. And the earliest pottery that shows up, at least in North America, carries a lot of the same forms as those sort of shallow bowls you see carved out of stone.
Mm-hmm.
Bowls that preserve relatively readily, archaeologically speaking, even though the pottery doesn't preserve quite as well for various reasons. Though pottery usually does preserve archaeologically quite well. But what pottery does is, over some of those same stone vessels, is pottery's generally easier to make. You can make it in multiple batches at a time. And it's slightly more portable, though to the degree of which how much early pottery is more portable than steatite vessels is a bit unclear.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also available in places where steatite isn't, as long as you have a clay material that is plastic enough or can be altered to be plastic enough to hold up to a firing process. And I mean, advantages pottery has over basketry is it's going to maintain waterproofing a lot longer. It can withstand heat fairly well, which obviously basketry can't.
Right. No direct heat cooking with baskets.
Baskets, yeah. You have to use the hot stones. So pottery changes a lot.
And one of the things that I found unsatisfying when I unlocked pottery here is all you do is click this, and then all of a sudden you have pottery.
Yeah.
Making pottery is a very sophisticated technique. There were certainly craft specialists. It required the collection of a variety of raw materials. It really isn't quite as complicated, isn't quite as simple as it might seem. You don't just dig up some dirt and form it into a pot, right? Finding the right kind of clays, thinking about the right kind of inclusions, thinking about how long and what technique you use to actually fire the pottery and how hot you can get that fire. All of these things have real downline consequences to, you know, how you can manage. Did we lose someone? Yep. Ignoble. This is our first burial mound taker. Not sure who passed away. Maybe it was Virend, the sick old woman. Well, that was it. Popped her right in there.
Nice.
Also, not particularly accurate. Usually there was probably some significant community activity surrounding death.
Burial rituals are generally pretty complicated.
But before we go on to that, potentially, we could talk, to finish up talking about pottery, of, you know, if they're going to take the care to get, like, stone and have this crafter's hut and everything, it seems like they could have added some pottery stuff to a certain degree, instead of just assuming that, you know, they have pots. All of a sudden, pots just exist in the village, so you can go and collect water with them.
And pottery manufacture varies a good deal over time. I mean, early on, we're dealing with, and it's the common form still in North America for indigenous potters, but what's called coil pottery, where long, thin coils of clay are fashioned and then pressed together and paddled together over time. It is a difficult way to make pottery. Versus a shift towards wheel-thrown pottery later in time, in sort of Europe and Asia. And there are differences in how pottery is actually produced between those two. Well, look at that village.
This is my pinnacle Neolithic village.
Okay.
You can see I've saved up some knowledge by basically letting this run in the background. So we are ready to move into the Copper Age. And so on. But I've figured out everything from the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic. So we've improved our houses, right, to a certain degree. We've upgraded from, you know, skull poles to giant rocks, which have not been particularly satisfied with how the game has communicated how these are quarried and transported. I literally have... Maybe we'll build something that requires these in a second. But so far it has just been 1 to 3 very sad, overworked individuals pulling a sledge with this giant rock on it, which
I am digging those semi-subterranean house floors.
Yeah, they do kind of go down in there, don't they? It's nice. But we have sledges, which we use to haul things around. No development of the wheel yet. We grind our grain in giant mortars. We have some fields where we have some spring, summer, and fall crops, and some winter and spring crops over here. I've domesticated.
A sheep problem.
Well, it's kind of not inaccurate that domesticated animals would just populate the same places that the villagers would. You know, pastoral societies might be a little bit different in how they would move around the landscape generally with their herds, but in just a village context, you're probably just going to have domesticated animals just hanging around. I've already culled the sheep population to a certain degree because I want to make room for pigs, which I have recently domesticated. I have some young females and an adult male, and we're going to hope that they make some baby pigs. But with the wool that the sheep produce, we're doing pretty good. Look at all of these things I have.
That is actually something that's really interesting too, along with domestication. Is it's not just domestication for wheat. I mean, at a certain point, there's also a domestication for secondary products like wool and milk.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, these secondary products were often more important than the meat products on these animals. It's actually a lot easier to go hunt something and just take the meat than it is to raise and keep something alive. In order to
you get readily observable patterns in terms of the faunal, like
bone remains in a village contest like this. I suppose like you get something like meat cow, where very few cattle will live to even an adult age.
Right.
But in sheep, you have a fair percentage of the population growing to an adult age for wool.
Mm-hmm.
And certain kinds of cattle, you get the same thing for milk, or goats, similar for that too, where you see a active effort in butchering for meat and for allowing percentage of the population for secondary products.
But
So
yes,
you have a palisade.
yeah, I do have a palisade. This was the last thing that I did. This took a ton of wood. You might look around; it's pretty thin. I've chopped down trees kind of over here, quite a bit. Oh my gosh! Look at that baby mammoth. Look at it. It's tiny little tusks. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so we've had to deforest some areas, but I've been trying to do it pretty selectively. Just
Stonehenge
to make sure.
outside
I
your
do. I
house
put it
over
right
there, too.
outside. Right
Nice.
outside. Contrary to what you see here, it only took 5 giant rocks to make this, not the, I don't know, 30 involved there.
Yeah.
Also, building it was a lot easier than transporting the stones, which I'm not entirely sure is entirely accurate in reality. Stonehenge is perhaps one of the best studied sites in
Yes.
all of human history.
You also
So
have another megalithic monument over there.
I do. That's a burial monument. This is a dolmen. So this has kind of replaced the defunct burial mounds, which at one point I needed 2 of them. This one has become kind of forgotten outside the
You
palisade.
can build the palisade out onto it later.
I was trying to roleplay some like cultural memory loss, presumably.
Well, I was going to mention the fact that you built Etowah.
Right on the riverside with the mounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. All right.
For those of you who don't know, that is an archaeological site in the southeastern U.S.
All right, old man. Run. Nope.
Well, conflict has been observed.
Yeah, the reason I didn't quite get there. The reason I've built this palisade is apparently once we enter the Bronze Age, raiders start showing up way more frequently. So I'm gonna call an alarm, and that's gonna rush everyone back to their villages, and everyone's gonna get some kind of weapon. And then they're just gonna go and post up next to the gate in the defensive constructions that are closest to where the raiders are coming from. We're gonna speed up time.
Okay.
Here they
Like a
come.
lot of
Here they
bows?
come. Yeah,
A lot of bows.
a lot of bows, slings. All right, they were pleased about that. Did you see them do their little cheer?
Yeah.
All right, no alert. Go back to it. Raiders killed times 20. I've killed 20 raiders now. Nice. And we don't give burials to the raiders. They just stay dead. Burial is reserved for our people.
So what kind of crops are you farming in here?
What do we got? We have some emmer wheat,
Sure.
some barley, einkorn,
Yeah.
some more barley.
All early domesticates.
Yep, over here we have peas,
Peas.
bitter vetch, which is another kind of legume, some flax, and
String.
some lentils.
Good protein.
So we've got a mix, and the peas and vetch come up early spring, so it's nice coming out of the winter and having those kind of ready to go. I have enough people now that I've actually automated a certain amount of the hunting. Ooh, ancient bison. I haven't seen ancient bison. I think I have a hunting zone over here. My hunting zone is over here. Let us relocate that,
Take advantage of those bison.
and hopefully they will go after the bison and not the mammoth family,
yeah.
and no one will die.
Again, these animals should very much be extinct.
At this point, 100%. Yes. Not really sure. Let's see what our trader has for us. An adult male goat.
goat,
I don't need
sure.
any goats or any of this, really. I think that it is time to take the plunge into the Copper Age.
Yeah, the good old Chalcolithic.
All right, we have the Copper Age. Oh, woolly rhinos have gone extinct.
Oh, there they go.
There they go, just like that. Let's see, what else can we invest points
What
into?
else is in this Copper Age?
Fruit tree domestication.
Odd that that's so late. Cattle, okay.
donkey.
Donkey.
I kind of like the idea of donkeys and wheels if we're going to build any more large things. So that seems good. We'll have to try to find some donkeys now. And let's just go with that for a second. We'll come back. We have enough to get into the next age, but I think I need to kind of get up to speed here with some bronze stuff first. Let's see what we've got. Metallurgy. Copper mine. What do we have around here copper-wise? Is this copper? Nope. Nope. Maybe the green-ish one is copper. Yes.
That would check.
That would
What I know
stand
of
to
copper,
reason.
once it oxidizes in an oxygen-rich environment.
So is that the closest? Oh, there's a copper mine over here. I'll plop this one down too, and then they can choose which they think is more effective. We need a charcoal pit. Maybe that can happen kind of outside the walls. But my wood storage is over here inside the village. Maybe that should change.
I am glad to see that they have separated out the Bronze Age from copper.
Yes.
Because many cultures around the world cold hammer copper long before they ever think about smelting it.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I don't need a pit furnace because we're not actually doing bronze because I don't have mining for tin yet. But we need a metalsmith. We will put somewhere over here by our crafter. That's an invalid. Oh, can't. There we go. There we go. They'll put by our old school crafter who's still occasionally making a flint pick or two. So we need mud, which is being collected from the riverbank over here. We have plenty of mud. Yeah, we have to occasionally butcher animals, right, to keep our populations in check, which has worked out just fine. I've actually set my sheep population to be maxed out based on 50% of the population of my people. So this village is 1/3 sheep, 2/3 people.
I'm guessing that horse domestication comes in the last age.
Presumably. Or in the Bronze Age.
No bronze, okay.
So yeah, let's see what we can't do. Let's see if we can find some donkeys to domesticate out here in the world. Pigs. Ibex, which are goats.
Yep. So pigs.
Cattle, bison.
Good luck domesticating bison.
Hasn't happened yet. Wild donkeys.
There we go.
There we go. Let's capture that young female. Ooh, and a young male.
There you've got a breeding population.
Oh, and there went the last of the mammoths
Well.
as well. You
better
spoke
late than
too
never, I
soon.
suppose.
Alright, charcoal pit, almost done. I like how we had to add mud instead of literally just digging a hole.
I think we should name that last mammoth to go extinct Big Steve as well.
That's it. Anyone who perishes. Yes. And we got our first copper mine as well. We'll see if anyone's successful. Let's watch. Okay, so we have one donkey
Alright.
was successfully domesticated. Or at least tamed. Can we find more and try again? Nope. Oh, we're trying right now. Oh, or is this actually just being tamed? Alright, we have our 2 donkeys. Fantastic. We'll see if that grows into a population.
They will proceed to become very stubborn, very loud animals. But there is an advantage to how loud the donkeys are.
Yes.
They are very effective at keeping predators away from livestock.
And let's just go ahead and plan ahead and make a couple carts here for our donkeys when they grow up. Hopefully they will also reproduce. Okay, so everyone's coming together. I prioritize the planting of most things, but they're pretty good about everyone coming together, planting these fields.
A more proper version of Shambana there. All those cornfields going.
Yeah, that's it. This feels more right. So which way are we looking? Which is this Champagne over here? And this is Urbana, or are we flipping this around?
Definitely the side with more plants would be Urbana.
That's true. There's more trees and stuff over here, but there's fields on both sides, actually. And it is a little unrealistic to have included the fields within the palisade.
You do have an accurate representation of Savoy here as well.
Oh, over here.
Yep.
Just this goat.
Yeah, just that goat. But I mean, once you get some metal smelting polluting the champagne side, we'll feel pretty good about
Ooh,
it.
look at all the copper things we can make. Let's just turn on continuous production and see what we get out of here. Our workload is definitely balanced and manageable for now. What does this trader have? Do we want to just buy cattle domestication? And do we want to maybe buy... Yeah, 250. We have a lot of things to trade, potentially.
Buy that in a donkey.
We don't really need these leather clothes anymore. The skins are actually warmer, and more people are wearing wool and linen.
Yep.
Anyway,
Cheaper to produce.
how much is 325? Let's just empty out here. Also, who needs flint axes anymore? Because we're about to have metal stuff. So yeah, let's buy cattle domestication. Fantastic. We got some more knowledge, which is really overkill at this point. All right, cool. We now know how to domesticate cattle. Let's see what we can do over here. Can't domesticate bison. I think we have to find aurochs.
Yeah.
The pig. More pigs. Goats. Something, if any developer of this game ever watches this stream, which seems unlikely, there is no hotkey or a quick way that I have found yet. I could just be terrible at this. To quickly go back to the village. I've kind of got a workaround that I've used when I've gone on these, like, I'm just wandering around. There's an adult male auroch.
Probably not the best candidate for...
Actually an invalid candidate. You are only allowed to try to tame juveniles.
Yeah, that's a degree of accuracy, I suppose.
For example, here we go. Million miles away. Young female auroch. Do we have any young males over here? A young male? Let's just tag all of these for capture and see how that goes. Now let's see it.
Now, all the people going after those aurochs are the first cowboys.
That's it. Yep. Without the without horses.
Without horses. Yeah.
Oh, this is a good place for copper and iron later. Look at all this.
That's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Some 10, which you will need shortly.
Yep. All right, back to the village. I think we can just follow this right fork. Yeah, here we are. The sheep are getting some Stonehenge time.
Sure. Makes sense.
We've acquired quite a bit of copper at this point. Have we produced any copper tools? Yet. We have not. What are we... I think we need charcoal. Is anyone over here making charcoal in the pit? Logs? Do we have enough wood? That is a question. We have 6 logs. Maybe now is when we start severely deforesting. Let's put another cut down trees work area.
Not Savoy.
There's no trees in Savoy. This checks out.
Let's check out.
Everyone going about their business. But we've got our donkeys moving heavy loads now. It's pretty cool.
Donkey just hanging out with its cart.
Yeah. Surely someone could find a use for donkey here. Oh, just straight through that building. Yes, moving logs. Good use of donkey. That makes sense. It's not a really efficient way to chop down that tree.
Not at all.
Vertical strikes. It's not really gonna do it. Yep, whatever works. Whatever works. The sheep's going for a swim. Trying to avoid being sheared, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely you're gonna see a sheep.
Okay, we have 2 cattle. I might need to build yet another stable. Because, well, actually, I don't think cattle need stable. Cattle and donkeys don't, but pigs, sheep, and goats do. Maybe horses do later. We'll see what happens when winter comes. But to talk about some of the specifics, so clearly the village looks different now.
Yep.
And what's pretty interesting, we got a storm and we're losing bread. This is actually probably more typical of this sorts of houses, minus necessarily the thatch in its particular, form here, but pretty typical to wattle and daub construction in Eastern North America during most of the later sequence. Do you know off the top of your head? I'm kind of ashamed to say I don't know when wattle and daub architecture shows up. I want to say towards the end of the late Archaic or the early Middle Woodlands, somewhere in there, but I'm actually not positive.
Yeah, I was going to say late early woodland, early middle woodland.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. It doesn't show up everywhere.
You want to describe the technique for?
Yeah, so wattle and daub structures. So these structures properly are built out of a series of walls that are slatted together and woven. So the walls themselves will consist of wooden poles woven together with sort of a reed or fiber matting. And then to help both to insulate and to protect that matting from sort of the ravages of times, it's smoothed over with a mixture of clay and sort of like other sort of fibrous materials to help the clay achieve a certain degree of plasticity so it doesn't just crack and fall off. And then that's smoothed over the edges of these walls to make them a little bit more waterproof, to make them a little bit more temperature regulated, and to make them last longer. That looks like a lot of like what these are.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not dissimilar from like plastering a house, but plastering involves a certain extra degree of chemical manufacture for the actual plaster that wattle and daub. It's a similar practice.
We're just gonna put some chestnut trees right outside here and see how that goes.
Up until about 1929, fairly well.
Yep, fair. It is something that I think about a lot, and maybe this is going into a bit more detail for people who don't have the background, but I think a lot about how the landscape changed, and the kind of landscape I'm familiar with in the Southeast is so different from what it would have been like even a couple hundred years ago. We've had major blights, like you said, the chestnut tree, but also hickory, white oak, and other trees that basically created like a savanna forest, kind of open wooded parkland that, this combination of those particular species that now have largely gone extinct, or at least have had severely reduced populations. I guess they're not technically extinct. But in combination with indigenous forest maintenance practices, where they were pretty commonly doing controlled burns and the like in forests, because that would propagate, open areas that are easy to move through, would further propagate certain species of trees, mast species in particular, like that would drop acorns and the like. And that would influence deer populations, which would have basically, by keeping the ground open and supporting these certain kinds of tree species, you're going to increase the number of deer that are available to hunt. So you basically would have had an entirely distinct kind of forest composition and landscape than you do today. And it's something I try to think about, when I'm occupying archaeological sites myself. I'm there moving around in them. It's a little bit different on the coast, because I think we actually, minus all of the invasive pine, it's not quite that distinct, but in the interior Southeast, it is very different. And in Georgia too, I don't know if you are familiar with Mark's work, but the loss of keystone species like beavers probably have gone unrecognized in their impact on archaeological settlement patterns.
Yeah.
I totally buy that argument. It's very interesting. If anyone watching is curious about how beavers may have influenced in a very significant way settlement patterns of indigenous peoples in the South, I'll forward you a really cool PDF about that topic. But, just thinking, that's something I spend quite a bit of time thinking about, is trying to remember that the landscape that I'm familiar with is not the landscape that was actually inhabited by people in that way.
grass is a big example of that.
Oh, yeah.
Grasses that you would think of as grass are an invasive species. Would not have been here at the time a lot of those sites would have been occupied.
Yep. Come on, get him. Good job, dog. This is why we like dogs. Dogs just go and hang out and fight off wolves. Man's best friend indeed. My hunters over here are doing a pretty good job on their own. The internet had me worried when I was looking at some stuff that they would be incapable of handling themselves. Currently, we have not bred any donkeys.
Notoriously hard to do.
Good point.
They do not breed readily in captivity.
Hadn't really thought about that in this context.
That's
Do we have to?
why being a domestic animal.
Should we take this woman's donkey?
It wouldn't hurt.
Only 80. What can we trade for it? We have wool outfits. We want to save those for winter, probably. Slings. We've got some bows. Oh, they're only worth 1 though. We need our sickles. I was really gung-ho about trading off some stuff before. But now we're not actually producing copper stuff quite as much as I wanted to. That's a lot of wool. Surely we can spare some wool. We're lousy
Somebody's not
with
getting
sheep.
a Christmas sweater this year.
Oh, and that donkey just emerged out of the other donkey and proceeded to live amongst the...
Walk around.
Yeah.
Probably don't want a donkey just walking around.
Probably not. Let's build us another part. And let's see if I'm missing a stage of the production chain here. Is the crafter do I need this workshop? What is this? Place to make miscellaneous tools. Maybe this is just an upgrade from crafting.
Very likely.
That seems, yeah, let's not bother with that right now.
Yeah, you've sort of built yourself into a dense little corner here.
I really have. I was not planning ahead at all. We're gonna have to expand into Savoy once we clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I should just collect this stone out so it'll clear off. Give some people some work. Not that they need any more right now. This is one of our picks.
Throw up the harvest market.
Yeah, this is basically just where's a long-term plan to... I guess I might need the pit furnace to just process that copper. Ideally, you probably wouldn't want this in
Nowhere near your village.
Yeah, it's gonna produce all kinds of nasty shit.
Early metallurgy sites are usually a fair distance away from a village by themselves.
Yeah, but like, who needs to walk that far? Is what I say for our little villagers here.
People who don't want to breathe toxic chemicals coming out of the smelting process.
All right.
In particular, a lot of these readily available ores are going to be mixed with lead, which is the real and a fair amount of arsenic as well, which is actually an ingredient in early bronze. But
So what does this need? Just some mud, so they'll get that taken care of, and then we'll see if we'll actually make some progress in
It's
metallurgy.
also, even beyond the sort of pollution of metal smelting, there's also the risk of building something that hot in your wooden house.
Yes, you definitely don't want to do those things. Right. Yep, so they're going to produce some copper now. So that was the missing element in the production chain after all.
Now,
Might try to just build yet another stable somewhere. Maybe this one gets put across the way over here as the first expansion, or maybe just outside the village.
outside, yeah.
Some trees there. I don't like, yeah, this ended up not being a particularly amazing spot because I have run out of room. I might have to start clearing out here, but there were some nice bushes and berries and things that I did not want to completely demolish. But here, this will be the inn outside the gates of town.
Which
Isn't really a thing yet. Because, yeah, there's no mercantilism, really, or any other things that would drive a need for, commercially housing strangers. Typically, the bonds of sociality that we kind of talked about earlier in terms of, trade and exchange still, even in this early Bronze Age society, is largely going to be leveraged based on the maintenance of known social connections.
So if you're visiting, you'll probably stay in the house of whoever it is you're related to or socially connected to.
And something completely missing, at least so far, is any kind of public construction.
Yep.
Right? A space that was, communally held, often controlled under the authority of some elite member of the community, but in trust of everyone, council houses and things like that. And we are lacking anything like that for now. All right. I mean, they're gonna slaughter some of the sheep to reach our sheep equilibrium again.
We're looking at an LBK sort of situation here, which is a type of pottery from Central Europe, dating to around the Chalcolithic or Copper Age. It's often called the Chalcolithic because it involves copper, but is also still influenced by a lot of the same sort of tool making practices and decision making that occurs in sort of the more stone tool production industries.
Yeah. I don't need a granary.
And it is distinct from bronze, which comes later and is a smelted alloy. Not that they're not smelting copper now.
Right.
Just not mixing it with tin and other materials to make it into a stronger metal.
Yes, I am running out of space. If I want to put it in my walls.
On the plus side, if you just weaved that copper into thin bands and introduced it to a magnet, you've got electricity.
That's true. If only we could jumpstart technology. What would we do with that amount of electricity, though? Especially considering the strength of the magnets that we would have had access to, natural lodestones and the like.
Nothing at all.
Right. I remember a Mythbusters thing from a million years ago about the Baghdad battery. These vessels that seemed to contain something highly acidic had interesting things, and it was probably, if it was real, probably not, was nothing more than really a party trick. Effectively, right?
Looks nice, but you're not capable of generating enough electricity to do much with it.
Yeah. New humans have joined the settlement. So we have no more room for people. Let's
Nobody's throwing up a Chalcolithic Tesla coil in the top of their house anytime soon.
No, certainly not. We need more donkeys. Everybody seems fine. We don't need to invest in further donkeys at the moment. Let's see. Do we have enough technology? We can jump into the Bronze Age. We haven't successfully made anything out of copper yet.
Wait, what technologies are included in the Bronze Age?
Yeah, let's check that out. So we have bronze smelting, masonry,
Okay.
sword making, composite archery, shield making, armor making, brewing, which
would have came way earlier than
yeah,
that.
netting, which also would have come way earlier, horse domestication,
Sure.
plowing, also yes, and stone carving. That
Earlier.
would have been way earlier. And to look at complex megalithism, probably predates the Iron Age, I'd say. As is baking. And then, of course, some of these improvements, sure, hydropower, saddle stones, deep mining, iron smelting,
Like
steel, that all kind of checks out.
Uh,
They've had to balance a couple things here, obviously, in terms of
yeah.
all of this.
No, there's good evidence that brewing is a really old technology.
Uh-oh, all our animals are gonna die. Run out of straw. Oops.
Some
I haven't been
wax.
growing enough. Can we collect wild stuff? It's around.
Strategy now is just to build a long sort of container that you can stuff them all in and force feed them wheat.
That would be the natural next step, right? There's some emmer, there's some rye. That stuff will produce wheat as it is collected, or straw. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's a temporary fix. Might want to maybe grow fewer like lentils and peas and things. Convert
Yeah,
this into some more room for wheat and the like. We'll see if they just start mass starving. Maybe we should just actually take down the number of sheep.
Yeah.
Let's manage resource limits. Sheep, 33% of the population. But we're still fine with an infinite number of cows. No problem. How are we doing? We're fewer pigs. No one's breeding. Maybe we need to find more.
King of Space might just be
It could be.
rough for it too.
I do not know exactly how that would play in to this.
I don't either.
Well, hello.
Here's some cow.
Yeah, my cat popped up right in my
Oh.
face, so I was saying that to him, but also let's grab all these young female cows. Might as well. I would like a young male as well, but we'll see what we can come up with. A thing that also annoys me from a just purely gameplay standpoint is I cannot actually tilt the camera. It's a fixed camera angle. I can do all the zooming I like and such, but oh, here's one of my megaliths I have prepared for transport whenever I want it. You can see it's actually
Nice.
on its sledge.
Yeah.
And everything. I haven't had any need to build another monument. And that is how I also figured out how to get back to town really fast. It's the megalith trick. To go into the management pane showing me where all the megaliths I've carved are, and I can go back to the constructions. There's probably an easier way. I will quickly admit I did not actually dive into the hotkeys here.
Sure.
That guy's got pretty sick little man bun and mustache going on there.
Quite popular during this time in Central Europe.
Look, and we're making copper tools finally. Good, it is time to move into the Bronze Age. Now we can mine tin. Let us... tin mine. Where was that spot over here?
On the other side of that big mountain.
It was. This is iron, right?
Yeah, it looks like iron.
Oh, here's more copper. I should have done that.
I don't think tin oxidizes particularly, so it should be gray.
Ah, here. Right on the other side. That's convenient.
I didn't think tin was known to oxidize particularly strongly.
No, I did
Sure it
not think so
does.
either.
I'm sure there may be a chemistry major watching this yelling at me right now, but to my knowledge, tin doesn't oxidize.
The
terribly.
fastest way to find out you've said something wrong on the internet, or the quickest way to it's a rule actually. I forget the name of the rule, but the quickest way to get the right answer to a question on the internet is to post the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Then someone will show up
Um,
and rectify
Based on
your misunderstanding.
what I vaguely remember about metal, I don't think tin oxidizes all that much. I know copper oxidizes green and iron oxidizes red.
Yeah, those are easy ones.
Yeah. And
So we've-
generally the metals I'm concerned with.
All right, we're just making all the things, mining some stuff, workload's going up, and now it's just a matter of time. We gotta let our little villagers do their thing. And I think with that, about 2 hours in, I'm probably going to call it for this evening. If people really enjoyed it, I might pick this up again next week before the archaeology unit ends. This one's a little more chill to play through and to watch, so maybe not as exciting as the Ancestors stream. But if there's popular demand, I might pick that up as well. I haven't played since the stream, and I'm kind of missing it. I was shocked at how fun Ancestors actually was, Blake.
No, I'm now fascinated by Big Steve. I know nothing else about Big Steve, but I'm fascinated. Just the legend that
The legend of the hominids, Big Steve.
named Big Steve.
He gave his life for just so much neuronal energy so that I could further evolve. Dog has contracted disease. 3 of my dogs are diseased. Goodness. Oh, we got a sheep over there doing the call.
Yeah, call of its people.
We're gonna finish building this house? Oh no, we need straw for the roof. This is a problem. Right. Are we killing all these sheep because they're just gonna die otherwise because they have no food? Is that... How do I... Here's rye. Over here. Hammer. I have a wild plant collection thing already over here, so hopefully just given a couple more seasons.
Think that the free-range sheep might be able to forage a bit on their
You
own.
would hope. You would hope. Maybe this is a winter collection for us. But in any case, like I said, I'm probably gonna call it here. It's been a very long day for me. And most of my day is not playing video games on camera, actually. So this was the icing on the cake today. But it was fun. Thank you for joining me. Is there anything that you are itching to complain about in this game before we close up?
No, nothing major. Thanks for having me, though.
That was fun. I enjoyed some of your expertise. You do know, I think, a little bit more about some aspects of European archaeology, like continental Europe, a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little.
Just due to your own predilections, you know. Oh, good. Let's end this.
Dangerous.
Oh wow, that's a
big
not
attacking
insignificant number of raiders. All right, everyone in. I like how we don't like close the gates.
No.
That's not
That's too much.
helpful.
Then they'll just knock, and nobody wants to answer that door.
How's this gonna go? And the dog, the latecomer.
It's interesting that the fight is happening next to the dolmen too. I feel like
Yeah, it
that's
is.
a monument that people are not going to want to fight.
All right, I lost one guy and a dog, but we got all 10 of those raiders. That went...
Seems like you're doing okay on the defensive front.
Yeah, went pretty well. Do we have... Yeah, there were some copper implements involved there. 3 copper axes. We have a composite bow. Copper. Yeah, look at all this copper stuff we're making now. Fantastic. Fantastic. How is our bronze? We're smelting some copper, some bronze. It's all just humming along. Look at this little society. This is what Shambana could have become had we given it enough time.
Yep.
As far as the game recommendation goes, if you are interested in kind of a game that you want to play while watching streams, Netflix, YouTube, something, this is definitely a good candidate. There's definitely moments of waiting, and I tend to appreciate games like that every so often, where I can, you know, manage things from above, watch all of the little villagers go about their business and do things. I don't think it's the strongest game I've ever played in that genre, but it's definitely an interesting take because of this, you know, ancient take on that formula that is so often typically done in like medieval settings or an imagined medieval setting. A lot of my favorites in that genre are games that take it into different places. Surviving Mars has been fantastic. Frostpunk is amazing because I am a fan of this genre for sure. But yeah, so thanks for joining. This has been fun, and
Yeah, thanks for having me.
we'll see if we do any more of this in the future. At the very least, hopefully we'll do it again in the spring for the archaeology unit of Intro to Anth going forward. I don't think that'll be around for anyone. I guess you'll get notifications of upcoming streams and the like if you sub to this rarely used YouTube channel, but feel free to do so if you're inclined. So that'll be it for me, and I suppose call it quits. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye.
Take care. All right, and that is the end of the stream.